She sat alone on 3 a.m. blind date. Then the billionaire reveals a shocking secret. The clock ticked, each second echoing louder than the last in the dimly lit cafe. It was 3 a.m., a time when shadows danced, and only the lost or the lucky roamed. Sarah sat alone at a small table, her hands trembling around a steaming cup of coffee, her heart racing at the thought of what this blind date might bring. The stories she'd heard about blind dates were often wild, mysterious strangers with shocking revelations, unexpected turns that made your head spin. Tonight felt electric, crackling with possibility, as if the universe had sprinkled a little magic into the air. But she was also scared of being stood up, of showing up for someone who wouldn't show up for her. Outside, the moon shone full and bright, framing her figure against the window like a portrait of waiting. She glanced around. The cafe was almost empty, shadows flickering behind deserted tables. Yet, one corner bubbled with life. Laughter erupted like an explosion from a group huddled together, unaware of her anxiety. But her focus snapped back as the bell above the door jingled. The doors swung open. A gust of wind brought with it a wave of cold that made her shudder. Had her date arrived? But who stood there wasn't just any date. He was tall, impossibly handsome, with an air of confidence that rippled through the room. Dressed in a tailored suit that clung to him like second skin and eyes that sparkled with untold secrets, he scanned the room until his gaze landed on her. Every other sound faded away, replaced by a pulse-like thrum in Sarah's ears. This was no ordinary guy, this was a billionaire, as she later learned, and tonight, as she sat across from him, he would reveal a shocking secret that would change everything. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As they exchanged polite smiles, a shiver of tension wove between them. She felt the weight of his gaze, a mixture of curiosity and something deeper that set her heart racing. Did he hold the answers to her unasked questions? Did he even know what she was thinking? Just as she opened her mouth to break the silence, he leaned forward, a serious expression settling on his face. "There's something I need to tell you," he began, his voice low and intense, swirling around her like smoke. Her breath hitched. The cafe around them faded away, leaving only the two of them suspended in a moment that felt crucial. What secret could he possibly spill? Why did her gut twist, as if sensing the gravity of his revelation? And just like that, she knew the night was about to unravel in ways she could never have imagined. "Please, go on," Sarah urged, her voice barely above a whisper, as if speaking louder would shatter the fragile tension that enveloped them. The billionaire leaned back slightly, his eyes still locked onto hers, studying her as if trying to decode her every thought. "I'm not just any billionaire," he began, pausing to gauge her reaction. Sarah's heart plummeted. She felt the weight of his words hanging between them, powerful and heavy, like a ticking bomb ready to explode. "My family, they're involved in something much darker than anyone knows." Darker? What did he mean by that? Her mind raced, a whirlwind of scenarios spinning out of control. Was he embroiled in a scandal? Some shady dealings? The soft murmurs from a nearby table faded into nothingness as she leaned in, desperate for answers. He continued, "You see, my father has connections that go beyond business. He made deals that compromise our family's safety, and now, it all rests on my shoulders." His gaze flickered briefly to the doorway, as if expecting someone to burst through at any moment. "What do you mean, compromise? Are you in danger?" Panic surged inside her, squeezing her chest tight. She didn't know whether to flee or stay, to trust him or run for her life. He took a deep breath, his expression haunted. "I've been in hiding," he admitted. "I'm here tonight because I thought I could have a normal conversation with someone. I never intended to drag you into this." Normal? His idea of a normal date was laced with danger. Her hands trembled, the coffee cup pressing uncomfortably against her shaking fingers. This wasn't the escapism she sought. It was a plunge into the unknown, Suddenly, the cafe door swung open again. This time, two men dressed in dark coats stepped inside, their sharp eyes scanning the room until they landed on the billionaire. Sarah's blood went cold. Panic and adrenaline kicked in simultaneously, making her pulse race. "Is that them?" she gasped, glancing between him and the door. He nodded, a tension tightening his jaw, driving home the weight of unspoken fears. "We need to leave," he whispered urgently, his voice barely a breath. "Trust me." Her instincts battled with her heart. Trust him? This stranger, despite his charm, was wrapped in danger thicker than smoke. But as her gaze met his, those piercing, desperate eyes, something deep inside flickered like a match struck in darkness. A revealing truth hung in the air. She was already in too deep. Before she could rethink her decision, the billionaire grabbed her wrist and propelled her towards the rear exit, urgency pulsating through his grip. Sarah's mind screamed with possibility, questions boiling up like a geyser, but time was running thin. Fear buzzed in her ears, blending with the thrill of impending fate. Just as they burst outside into the frigid night, a voice called from behind them, echoing with an authority that sent chills cascading down Sarah's spine. "Stop right there." They darted through the alley, weaving through shadows as the realization hit Sarah. The night she thought would be magical was spiraling into a treacherous dance of escape. Who were these men? What had she gotten herself into? And as they sprinted into the unknown, one potent question loomed. What would they find lurking in the darkness ahead? Heart racing, Sarah followed the billionaire down the narrow alley. Each footstep echoed like a drum in her ears, drowning out the world around them. She could feel the weight of eyes on her, the oppressive presence of danger looming just behind. "Keep running," he urged, glancing over his shoulder as they turned onto a dimly lit side street. The muffled voices of the men they were escaping drifted to her, thick with menace. Anxiety surged within Sarah, tightening her throat. Every instinct screamed that staying near him was a mistake, yet here she was, caught in a whirlwind of uncertainty. "Where are we going?" she managed to shout, her breath coming in sharp bursts. "To my car," he replied, urgency lacing his voice. They turned another corner, ducking into another shadow. The street was deserted, the usual sounds of the city now eerily muted, replaced by the pounding of their hearts. Sarah's mind raced through the implications of his words. A car? An escape? Was she willing to trust him, a man cloaked in mystery and peril? "Why me?" she blurted out. "What do you want from me?" The question hung heavy between them. He stopped, gripping her shoulders as he searched her eyes, desperation etched on his face. "I need you to understand. I wouldn't drag you into this if I had another choice. My father's enemies are everywhere. I thought I could make it through the night unscathed. I hoped." He trailed off, jaw clenched as if he was holding back the weight of his fears. "Hope for what?" Sarah pressed, resisting the pull of doubt. "Who are these people?" "People who will do anything to take me down," he replied, his voice barely a whisper. "And anyone close to me." A shiver crawled down her spine. A part of her wanted to disentangle herself from this chaos, but another part, a braver part, felt the undeniable thrill of danger. She'd never been swept into something like this before, and despite the terror, the adrenaline sang through her veins. Just as they started moving again, a sudden thud echoed from the entrance of the alley. Breath caught in her throat. She turned to see one of the men from the cafe step into view, followed closely by the other. Their faces were obscured by shadows, but the gleam of purpose in their eyes was unmistakable. "You want to escape," the first man called out, his voice a low growl that reverberated in the stillness. Panic swarmed over Sarah, and she instinctively moved closer to the billionaire. "Run," he shouted, shoving her ahead of him. They bolted down the street, pounding footsteps crunching against the pavement. An unyielding fear gripped Sarah as they darted into a brightly lit intersection, the bustling city around them a stark contrast to the looming nightmare behind. "Where's the car?" she shouted amidst her rapid breathing, catching glimpses of their pursuers drawing nearer. "Just up ahead," he exclaimed, eyes darting toward a sleek black vehicle waiting at the curb, its engine growling like a predator. But in that moment, she caught sight of the second man closing the distance with startling speed, a glint of something metallic catching the light. "Look out," she screamed, instinctively pushing the billionaire aside just as a shot rang out. Time froze. the world narrowing down to the agonizing seconds stretching out in front of her. She saw the billionaire stumble, pain flickering across his face as he clutched his side, blood seeping between his fingers. No, she gasped, instinct gripping her heart. Before she could reach him, the first man was upon them, fierce and relentless. And as Sarah's world turned to chaos, her mind was left spinning, the question echoing in her thoughts. Would she be able to save him, or were they both doomed to fall into their nightmarish fate? Panic fueled Sarah's legs as she rushed toward the billionaire, her heart hammering against her ribcage. His body crumpled to the ground, and the sight of blood pooling beneath him sent a jolt of terror coursing through her. Get up. We have to get out of here. The words blurred as her voice cracked, urgency drowning out rational thought. She knelt beside him, mind racing, desperate for an answer to perfect a brutal equation of survival. The night was draped in darkness, but his anguish was painfully clear. Sarah, he groaned, his face pale as he pressed down hard on his wound. His once confidence shattered into fragments, revealing a vulnerability she hadn't seen before. You have to go without me. Are you insane? She shook her head violently, tears mixing with adrenaline. I'm not leaving you here. If they get me, they'll come for you next. You need to run. His voice was a strained whisper, and that realization crashed over her like a wave. He was right, but there was a fire in her that refused to be snuffed out. I'm not abandoning you. She bit her lip, scanning the street for help. Sunlight would soon break, but it felt like hours before dawn. She could still hear the men's footsteps echoing closer, fueled by greed and vengeance in the distance. She spotted headlights flickering to life, searching, moving. Was it friend or foe? She couldn't wait to find out. If we don't get you help now, we won't have another chance. She found herself inching closer, the wild energy of survival lifting her weightless. With a heave, she wrapped her arms around his torso and attempted to lift him, but he was heavy, his pain overwhelming them both. Sarah, don't, but I will. She retorted fiercely, ignoring the fire in her muscles. You're not dying on my watch. Another crack of a gunshot rang out, ricocheting off the buildings. Sarah's body froze, adrenaline flooding her senses. Get up. There was a newfound determination in her voice that pierced through his haze. He struggled to his feet, and she could see him swaying, the life fading from his eyes. But they couldn't stop. It was now or never. Together, they stumbled toward the flickering headlights. As they reached the edge of the street, she could see the flashes of silhouettes moving quickly from shadows. Rising fear gripped her heart. Suddenly, a black SUV screeched to a halt beside them. Get in. A woman shouted from the driver's seat, her dark glasses reflecting the scattered light. Without hesitation, Sarah hoisted the billionaire into the back seat, sliding in behind him, reality melting as she twisted to the front. Drive. She ordered the woman. The roar of the engine shattered the night, tires screaming against pavement as they sped off. He leaned heavily on Sarah, his breathing labored. Thank you, he gasped, a hint of warmth in his voice cutting through the chaos. But the rush of relief was fleeting. She glanced out the window to see both men from the cafe emerge, weapons drawn, frustration twisting their features as they sprinted toward where the SUV had just been. The billionaire slumped. His eyes fluttered, and he gasped for breath. Sarah, listen. He gripped her hand, his voice now filled with urgency. There's something you don't know about my family. It changes everything. What do you mean? Fear twisted in her stomach, pulling her deeper into the night's web of mysteries. But just then, a bullet cracked through the air, shattering the window beside them. Glass rained as she ducked instinctively, the world outside exploding in a frenzy of chaos. Hold on. The driver yelled, swerving sharply, but Sarah's mind was already racing, her blood pounding with an intoxicating mix of dread and curiosity. His words, unfinished, hung in the air like a promise waiting to be broken. What truth could be so powerful that it might shift the very foundation of her existence? The questions spiraled, and deep down, she knew they were only just beginning to uncover the tip of this sinister iceberg. Shit. We need to speed up. In that moment, everything around them shifted. Would the revelation leak out before they reached safety? Or was Sarah about to plunge headfirst into an abyss of dark family secrets and revenge that could consume them both? The SUV shot down the dimly lit streets, a ghost in the night, weaving through shadows like a hunted animal. Sarah's heart raced with each jolt of the vehicle. She could feel the billionaire's breathing grow more shallow beneath her touch, and panic gripped her once more. "Stay with me," she urged, gripping his hand tighter. "Please, we're getting you help." But he was slipping. Sarah's voice was a fragile thread. "The truth, they won't stop. My family." There he choked on the words, desperation etched across his once handsome face. "Just tell me." She felt the weight of the night crush her. The headlights of another car surged into view, barreling toward them. "Hold on." Too late, he murmured, and the words struck her harder than any bullet could. The driver swerved, narrowly missing the oncoming car, but the SUV lurched violently, throwing Sarah against the door. "Are you okay?" she screamed, but the billionaire didn't respond. Blood trickled from the corner of his mouth, pooling on the seat beneath them. "Just a little more," she whispered, her heart racing. She could see the edge of the city looming ahead, the glow of streetlights like a distant lifeline. But the men from the cafe were relentless. The echoes of their shouts and the sound of their pursuit filled her mind with dread. She turned to the driver, her voice steady but laced with fear. "Do you know a safe place? Somewhere we can hide?" The woman's eyes darted to the rearview mirror. "I know a place," she replied, urgency thickening her tone. "But we need to lose them first. Do whatever it takes." They sped through twists and turns, every bump sending a fresh jolt of fear through Sarah. She looked back to see the men still on their tail, relentless shadows that seemed to grow larger in her peripheral view. Suddenly, the driver slammed on the brakes, sending both Sarah and the billionaire lurching forward. "We're taking a shortcut." The engine roared back to life as they veered onto a narrow alleyway, the sound of shattering glass and screeching tires echoing behind them. Sarah barely had time to catch her breath before the SUV was flying again. "Is this it?" she shouted. "Is this the place?" "Just a little further." "But he needs help now." Her frustration bubbled over. She couldn't help but feel the crushing weight of helplessness. The billionaire's eyes closed, his body slumping against her. "No, please stay with me." Just when she thought the darkness would swallow them whole, the driver turned sharply onto another side street, leading them to a massive metal gate. This should do it. As she glimpsed a flicker of hope, the gate creaked open, revealing a dimly lit warehouse. The driver tore through, parking with a screech. They were inside, but the threat loomed just outside the gate. "Get him out," the driver urged, already scrambling out of the car. Sarah's heart raced as she hastily pulled him towards the back. She could hear the faint sounds of their pursuers approaching. The ticking clock made every second feel like an eternity. "Tell me what the hell is going on," she pleaded, panic coating her words, pushing him past the threshold of the SUV just as the heavy clank of the gate echoed through the air behind them. "Sarah, you have to understand," he whispered, his gaze locking onto hers, frantically trying to convey urgency. "My family, they're not who you think they are." "Why? What do you mean?" Just as he opened his mouth to reveal whatever dark reality loomed over them, gunshots rang out, shattering the stillness of the warehouse. The world around them exploded with chaos. "Run! Hide!" the driver shouted. The billionaire's grip loosened on her arm. He looked down, horror etching his expression. But before he could finish, another gunshot rang out. A piercing pain shot through Sarah as she felt her legs weaken. "Sarah!" His voice was a desperate plea. She fell to the ground, gasping for breath as darkness danced at the edges of her vision. The final words were on the tip of her tongue, ready to spill into the chaos surrounding them, but a scream shattered her thoughts. Was it hers? Or was it his? As everything around her faded into a blur, she could feel her grip on reality slipping away. The night held secrets, and as she slipped into unconsciousness, the weight of those secrets threatened to drown her in darkness. What truth could shatter their lives so completely, and would she remember it if she ever returned? Darkness enveloped Sarah, wrapping around her like a thick fog. Coldness seeped into her bones as she drifted in and out of consciousness. Sharp bursts of gunfire and the frantic yells of the driver echoed distantly in her mind. She tried to fight her way back to awareness, but it was as if she were trapped in a dream she couldn't escape. "Get up, Sarah!" someone shouted. The urgency in the voice cut through the haze. She blinked, fighting to focus, and slowly, the warehouse materialized around her. Dim overhead lights flickered, casting frantic shadows across the concrete floor. "Help!" she croaked, her throat raw and dry. Her eyes darted around, searching for the billionaire. He lay a few feet away, a lifeless figure against a backdrop of horror. Blood pooled around him, dark against the gray of the floor. "Stay with me," the driver shouted again, but Sarah could barely understand what was happening. The memory of gunshots rattled against her skull. "Where?" "Just move." The driver was back at her side, urgency radiating from her. "We need to find cover. They'll come through that door any second now." With a surge of will, Sarah pushed herself up. Her legs trembled beneath her, but she took a step toward the billionaire, a desperate pull in her chest. She reached out to check his pulse. Nothing. No. Panic gripped her. She pressed her fingers against his neck, praying for a flutter, a sign that he was still there, that he still needed her. But only stillness met her touch. "Sarah." The driver's voice snapped her back. "Now. We have to go?" As they moved deeper into the shadows of the warehouse, the screams and the chaos began to sound muted, like a world far away. The air was thick with fear, and Sarah's heart raced, each beat echoing loudly in her ears. "Tell me what is happening," she gasped, the words tumbling out before she could stop them. "Why are they after you? Who are you?" The driver hesitated, glancing back at the entrance. "There's no time." But he was trying to tell me the truth. The driver pushed her further into a narrow corridor that spanned the length of the building. "His family has secrets too dangerous to be known. If they find us, they'll kill us both." "Secrets? What kind of secrets?" Anxiety twisted in Sarah's gut. She felt it churning her insides. "Drugs, corruption, control." The driver's voice trembled. "That's what your billionaire's family is involved in. But it's worse than you can imagine." As they navigated through the building, shadows danced in the corners of her vision. Sarah fought the concept of the man she thought she knew rotting under layers of deceit. How could he hide such darkness? They turned a corner, and the sudden crash of footsteps echoed behind them. The driver yanked Sarah into a small supply room, and they crouched low, hearts pounding as breaths rattled in their chests. "Do I know you?" Sarah whispered, desperate to know whom she was trusting with her life. "Not yet. But we will," the driver replied, her eyes narrowing with steely resolve. "Just keep quiet. Let me handle this." Heavy footsteps approached, followed by muffled voices. Sarah's stomach churned as she pressed herself against the cold metal shelves, the weight of her impending doom nearly too much to bear. "Are you ready?" the driver whispered. "No." Fear gripped Sarah. "What if we get caught?" "They won't get us," the driver assured, but doubt clung around them like an oppressive fog. Suddenly, the door burst open. Shadows poured in, silhouettes advancing with lethal intent. Sarah's heart stopped. A chilling voice cut through the air, commanding and authoritative. "I know you're in here." Every muscle in Sarah's body tensed. They were seconds away from discovery, seconds away from death. And her mind began to race with the questions left unanswered. Who was this man really? Just then, the driver leaned toward her, eyes fierce. "Whatever happens, your life depends on the truth, and you must find it before it's too late." A gunshot rang out, reverberating like thunder, drowning everything else in a sea of chaos and fear. What truth awaited her in the depths of danger? Could she uncover it before it tore through everything she knew? The sound of the gunshot echoed long after the blast, a dark note that sent shivers running down Sarah's spine. She clutched the driver's arm, panic clawing at her throat like a living thing. The shadows cast by the dim lights seemed to twist and writhe, closing in on them, suffocating. "Stay silent," the driver hissed, shaking off Sarah's grip. It was a moment of desperation, the moment when fear makes you reckless. But no matter the terror closing in, Sarah wanted to scream, to clarify the turmoil in her mind. The figures outside the room shuffled, their hushed voices a storm of threats and authority. Sarah held her breath, the air thick and heavy. To her right, shelves of boxes loomed like sentinels, standing guard over her vulnerability. She could barely hear the words, but the weight of their intent pressed against her chest. "Check the back room," a voice growled. "Split up. They can't have gone far." A fire ignited in her gut. She glanced at the driver, whose face was set in a mask of grim determination. This was no time to be passive. Sarah felt a surge of courage, a stubborn resolve. What is your name? The words erupted before she could think better of it. Anya, the driver whispered urgently. Focus, Sarah. Don't. The door groaned as heavy boots creaked into the room beyond. Sarah's heart raced at the thought of being discovered. They worked so hard to escape the chaos outside, only to be cornered here like rabbits in a trap. Did they go this way? Another voice barked. Yes, I saw them running. A third voice answered, tinged with mockery. They think they can hide. The confidence in their tone echoed menacingly. Everything inside Sarah screamed at her to flee, but the weight of uncertainty anchored her in place. Anya, please, there has to be a way out, she murmured, desperate to find a thread of hope woven into the terror. Anya's eyes flared with an intensity that pierced through Sarah's frenzy. Follow my lead. We wait until they turn their backs. As they listened, the footsteps drew closer, the tension in the room palpable. Panic threatened to crush Sarah under its weight. Her past life felt like a distant dream, and now danger had a way of sharpening the mind. In a blinding flash, she remembered the billionaire's expression before everything spiraled into chaos. What had he meant by secrets? How deep did that darkness go? On my mark, Anya whispered, crouching lower. The room felt alive with its own, breathing a sigh of anticipation mixed with dread. The voices outside mixed with pounding heartbeats and shallow gasps. The air was stagnant, thick with the potential for action. Suddenly, the voices faded. Anya shot her a quick look. Now, they sprang into movement, a blur of urgency. Together, they darted past long shelves crowded with equipment, hearts hammering in unison. Sarah's mind raced, urging her to think, to plan, but all she could hold on to was the instinct to survive. Crashing into the main warehouse, they stumbled into a swath of darkness made more impenetrable by shadows. Behind them came the sound of shouts, but Sarah couldn't stop to look back. The pulsating fear kept her feet moving. Floorboards creaked, splintering underfoot, a sharp reminder that nothing here was stable. Anya, where do we go? She hissed, panic rising again. Every second felt like a ticking time bomb, counting down to disaster. A flicker of movement caught Anya's eye. That way. She pointed to a narrow door leading into the depths of the building. Wait. Sarah paused, her mind clashing with necessity. Why are they really after you? Anya turned back, her expression shifting as if a heavy weight pressed down on her. It's not just about me. They're after everything: connections, false identities. Murdoch's empire. He has enemies everywhere. People would kill just to keep this covered. And what am I to you in all of this? Sarah pressed, breathless. Just trust me. Anya snapped. Urgency dripped in every word. With a quick glance behind, the shadow of the threat loomed ever closer. Let us go. As they slipped through the door, the last thing Sarah heard was the sound of footsteps pounding toward them. The darkness swallowed them whole. Where would this new path lead? Would they find safety, or would the shadows reveal even deeper secrets? The narrow corridor swallowed them, a long, dark tunnel that twisted like a snake beneath the building. Anya pressed forward, dragging Sarah along. The air was stale, damp, and filled with a heavy sense of dread. Each step felt like a countdown to discovery, a quiet drumbeat of their impending doom. Anya, Sarah whispered, her voice trembling. How do you know this place? It's where secrets are kept, Anya replied, her tone tight, focused, and where they're often buried. Sarah's heart sank. Each word from Anya only deepened the complexity of the situation. It wasn't just Anya they were escaping. It was the legacy of a dangerous life that seemed to reach out and snatch them from the ordinary, pulling them into the extraordinary chaos. They reached a heavy door at the end of the corridor. Anya pressed her ear against it, listening for any signs of life on the other side. The silence was unnerving, laden with the tension of what lay beyond. Don't make a sound, Anya ordered, giving Sarah a quick look that held both promise and peril. When I open it, we slip through, fast. Sarah nodded, dread gripping her throat like a vice. This was no ordinary escape. It was a descent into darkness. Anya eased the door open a crack, wincing at the creak that seemed to echo impossibly loud in the silence. Her eyes darted around, scanning for threats. Now, she whispered. They burst through, eyes wide, bodies tense. The new room was large, dimly lit, and chaotic stacks of crates piled haphazardly, tools scattered like the memories of those who once stored them. But it was the sight that met them next that stole Sarah's breath, a flicker of movement, then the unmistakable outline of a man. She recognized him immediately. Murdoch, Anya breathed, her voice barely a whisper. He stood against a wall, arms crossed, expression inscrutable as he regarded them with an intensity that sent ice through Sarah's veins. You really thought you could get away? Don't come any closer, Anya shouted, stepping in front of Sarah protectively. Murdoch chuckled, the sound dark and hollow. You've stirred up quite a mess, Anya. You're in way over your head. Fear flooded Sarah's senses. This man was a force, dangerous and manipulative. The billionaire whose world was crumbling because of the secrets he kept. What do you want from us? She shouted, her voice shaky but defiant. A partnership, Murdoch said, the glint in his eyes sharp. You don't even know the half of what's at stake. They think they can bury me, bury you. But I have information, secrets that could save you. All I need is your trust. Trust? Anya spat back. You expect us to believe you? Believe me or not, but you're running out of time. Murdoch stepped closer, the shadows wrapping around him like a cloak. You can't outrun your fate, but I can offer a way out. Sarah's mind raced. How could she even consider trusting a man like Murdoch? Yet the urgency screamed that they needed options, fast. Silence fell thick in the air, laden with the weight of decision. Anya, we have to, Sarah began, but Anya cut her off. Don't listen to him. What he wants is more than we can afford to give. But what if he is right? What if trusting him is our only way to survive this? Murdoch smiled, but it wasn't a comforting expression. Your only choices are to work with me, or end up like so many before you forgotten in the shadows. As the tension built, Sarah felt a cold sweat breaking out across her skin. The walls were closing in, and she could hear the distant thunder of footsteps rising again. They needed to decide, and they needed to decide fast. Choose wisely, Murdoch warned. You may not get another chance. Anya's eyes darted to Sarah, a silent plea mixed with desperation. What would they do? Trust him? Or fight for their lives, risking everything in the process? Before she could answer, the door they had just come through began to rattle violently. Time was slipping away faster than Sarah realized. Would this partnership with Murdoch spell their downfall, or could it be an unexpected lifeline? In that moment of uncertainty, as shadows loomed ever closer at their back, the line between allies and enemies blurred into a haunting question. How much was Sarah willing to risk to uncover the truths hidden beneath the surface? The door rattled violently, a drumroll heralding danger. Panic surged through Sarah, and she cast a frantic glance at Anya. The shadows behind them stirred, ominous and eager. Anya, as she started, but Anya's eyes were wide, an urgency radiating from her every pore. Before another word could escape, Murdoch moved swiftly, his expression shifting to one of command. Follow me. Now. He turned on his heel, disappearing deeper into the dimly lit room. Anya hesitated but then grasped Sarah's arm with a fierce determination, guiding her in Murdoch's wake. They had only seconds to escape the full weight of impending danger. Inside this cryptic space, the scent was more acrid now, a mix of rusted metal and something faintly sweet, rotting. Anya's heart raced, matching the rhythm of her footfalls. What is the plan? She breathed, barely keeping up. Murdoch didn't look back. We're not safe yet. I have a place where we can talk. You need to understand what is really happening. They rounded a corner, stumbling into another room, this one cluttered with old machinery. A giant fan whirred softly overhead, but other than that, they were alone. What do you want from us? Anya demanded, her voice sharper now, as if challenging him to explain himself. Sarah stood beside her, trembling, caught between fear and an inexplicable thrill. Murdoch finally turned to face them, shadows dancing across his face. You don't get it. There are forces at play that don't want either of you alive. Not just me. It's bigger than all of us. He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. Sarah felt that weight pressing on her chest, tightening her throat. What do you know? You think your past is behind you? He tilted his head, eyeing them with an intensity that felt predatory. You're wrapped up in it now. Anya, you're connected to something far larger than you realized. It's why they're after you. Anya's brow furrowed. Connected? How? What are you talking about? Because you stumbled upon the truth, Murdoch said, his voice low, conspiratorial. You have something they want. Something that could destroy them, or save us all. As he spoke, Sarah's stomach churned with dread. This was madness. Yet a part of her, a small, reckless part, felt drawn in. What is it? She pressed, needing clarity. Evidence, he replied, glancing over his shoulder. Hidden proof of corruption and greed. It could expose them, but it was never just yours to find. They'll kill to keep it buried. His words wrapped around them like a cold, damp fog, thickening the air. Anya shook her head, her resolve faltering. What proof? Why should we believe you? Because you're already entangled in it, Murdoch insisted, inching closer. They'll come for you, no matter what you choose. But I can help. The door behind them banged loudly, shattering the tense air. Footsteps pounded closer, furious and unforgiving. Adrenaline surged through Sarah as she glanced toward the exit. We can't stay here. Then we need to make a choice, trust me, or take your chances in the dark, Murdoch said, urgency painted on his face. You have to decide now? The noise grew louder, a stampede rapidly echoing through the shadows. Time was running out. Every heartbeat cried out for action. Anya's eyes darted between Sarah and Murdoch, each moment straining under the weight of pressure. Behind them, the door shook violently again, a splintering sound punctuating their precarious situation. Murdoch's eyes locked onto Sarah's, demanding an answer, a decision. Would trust be their only lifeline, or would desperation lead to downfall? In a world where shadows loomed large, could truth even survive the night? Make it quick, Murdoch insisted. Faced with the maddening whirlwind of choices and the relentless march of danger, Sarah could feel the world closing in on her. Would she leap into the unknown beside him, or turn back into the hell they were trying to escape? Her heart raced as she weighed the choice that could seal their fates, understanding fully that whatever path they took would be shadowed by immense risk. Where would their trust lead them? Next, the door shuddered violently, the pounding feet breaking through the stillness. Sarah's heart thudded wildly, a battle drum of fear echoing in her ears. The urgency of the moment was suffocating. Murdoch, she gasped, panic seizing her. What do we do? Trust me, he shouted, his voice a harsh whisper, all seriousness. Anya's expression flickered uncertainty, caught between desperation and fiery distrust. You're asking us to follow you into darkness, Murdoch. After all the danger, after everything. Murdoch's right, Sarah interjected, each pulse of her heart saying this moment was critical. I don't want to choose the chaos outside. Not now. I want answers. Her voice cracked, the weight of her decision hanging heavy between them like a leaden blanket. Another shudder hit the door, splintering more with every forceful nudge. They were running out of time. Then listen, Murdoch dropped his voice to a tense whisper. There's something buried deep in this building. An escape route that leads farther underground. We can slip away, and I can tell you everything. An escape route? Anya's disbelief wrinkled her brow. Trust me, Murdoch repeated fiercely, this time more of a command than a plea. They could see the door buckling with every strike. Sarah's resolve hardened. She was going to face the truth, whatever that truth may bring. Let us do it, Sarah said, glancing at Anya. Where's this route? It's through the back, past the machinery, Murdoch motioned, relief flickering in his eyes. We have to go now. He pushed open a side panel in the wall, revealing a dark passageway. The air smelled of dampness, ancient secrets tucked away. Without hesitating, he darted in, followed closely by Anya and Sarah. The hallway twisted and turned, the dim light slicing through the black. The thud of the door gave way to a cacophony of heavy steps and angry shouts, now distant but still echoing with threat. They moved quickly, adrenaline fueling every stride as Sarah could still feel the night closing in behind them, shadows peering hungrily. We might be safe here, Murdoch said, glancing back to ensure they hadn't been followed. But you need to understand. My family has been involved in stop. Anya interjected, her voice sharp. We don't need a family history right now. Focus on surviving. Murdoch's face hardened. This isn't just about survival. It's about the corruption we're tangled up in. The stakes are high. Tell us. Sarah demanded, something deep inside swirling at the brink of realization. The evidence documents, recordings, backdoor deals, it's all here. If it gets out, it could expose them and turn everything upside down, he explained, urgency lacing his every word. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Sarah snapped, frustration bubbling. Enough with the games. My life is hanging by a thread. It wasn't he my choice. Murdoch retorted, anger flashing in his eyes. We're every bit as trapped as you are. Their eyes settled on each other, and that moment of tension hung before them until Anya broke it. Prove it. Show us. Murdoch stepped aside, revealing a door behind some crates. In there you'll see. With a nod, they moved cautiously. Murdoch pushed open the door, revealing an office cluttered with documents, machines humming ominously in the background. Papers sprawled haphazardly over desks, some even spilling onto the floor. Sarah's heart raced as she stepped in, her instincts screaming at her to be cautious. Sarah, Anya breathed out, eyes wide with disbelief. We need to get this out into the public. It could change everything. With impending freedom at their fingertips, Sarah began sifting through the files, her hands trembling. And then, she found a folder labeled with a familiar name, a family she'd known all her life. Tremors shot through her. This is the connection, she whispered, dread pooling in her stomach. Her mind raced, trying to piece it all together. Getting this out is our only way to fight back, Murdoch said. We need to act fast. Are you with me? The question reverberated in the room, dropped like a bomb, each option tangled in shadows. I will, Sarah said fiercely, knowing every truth unveiled would shift the foundations of her life. Count me in, Anya declared, and the weight of unity settled over them. Outside, there was cheering chaos, and sudden light flickered in the darkness, freedom's promise glowing faintly. But then Sarah caught a look from Murdoch, a glint of something unsaid. Just remember, once we step back out there, nothing will be the same again. The three nodded, determination pooling in their hearts like a fierce tide. Together, they would face the storm. Together, they would unearth the truth hiding beneath layers of darkness and deception. And that resolution pushed them forward, a gripping drive that urged them through the night, pressing against the dawn rising ahead. With one final glance back at the chaos and devastation they left behind, they ventured out, ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. What secrets of the night would finally spill forth into light? This was not just a beginning. It was their fight for freedom. You need to subscribe now. Don't miss our next exclusive story that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Smash that like button now to fuel this phenomenal storytelling. I want to hear from you. Flood the comments section with your thoughts, reactions, and theories about this insane ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this thrilling conclusion. Your support is what makes our community stronger.